Welcome to the Wildly Rooted Living podcast. Today, I have a special guest with me, Jessica Beaman, and she's going to talk about her home birth. And we're going to go into home birth and physiological birth and what that means for her and how everything went. Um, we're also probably going to get into the topics because she likes to share about low tox living and kind of, I would say intentional living too of motherhood, and um, how you eat and live your life. And that's something I'm also very passionate about. So I think those are topics we'll probably get into as well. But yeah, so tell me about, you. So who are you in this season of life and what led you towards a home birth and all of the above?
Um, I, yeah, so this could be a very long-winded question. I'll try and condense it, but essentially, right now, my season is really stepping into motherhood and sitting in motherhood. It was, I think for many women, you dream of the day you become a mom. Um, and, I just recently, so I grew up in a small town, went to a small school, always knew I wanted to be a teacher, um, and grew up actually getting my degree, and I was a teacher, and I loved it. I love children, and I love sharing, like educating people in things that I am passionate about. So for teaching, it was getting to work with children, but then, I loved watching them learn things and fall in love with learning. And I would say maybe a couple years ago, I kind of started thinking about what life would look like when I had a kid. And as a teacher, you have colleagues who all have children and they're teaching. And I remember thinking, like having this thought before I had children, but looking at my colleagues who have children and being like, wow, this is a weird world we live in where they're sending their children to be watched by other people and they're teaching other people's children. And it wasn't judgmental, it was more of just an observation, but it was like, wow, my love is to teach and then, have a kid. And it started kind of moving, like there was just this curiosity in the way we do things in the Western world, and then just how I'm living. And it slowly kind of started to progress. I can talk about this later, but it was almost as if I could say that God, or what you believe in, I believe in God, and he kind of touched me in little ways, like dropping breadcrumbs. One day I was listening to a podcast, and the next one that came on happened to be about a natural birth. And then, so it was kind of like a snowball of things, but I stepped away from teaching as soon as I found out I was pregnant. And it was something that I knew I didn't want to be working. Like I wanted to be home with my child. And so right now it's slowing down and really embracing this season because I think that there's a lot of, evidence that supports, the benefits of a mom being home with her children. Um, and so, yeah, I'm just right now really really loving being home as a stay-at-home mom. And I guess, yeah, I don't even have a track on how I got here. It was really like God was kind of dropping things to awaken my understanding of what my true role is here on planet Earth for this time.
That's beautiful. I love that. I agree with you. I think it's funny whenever I talk to any like public educator, um,
Mhm,
they all say the same thing about how they find it strange,
mhm,
that like that's what happens. You have your kid, you come off mat leave, you go back to work, and
mhm,
then you're sending your kid off to someone else, and it's like this whole thing. And I also find it kind of funny. And I think there is a shift happening where people are starting to realize like there is ways to be more intentional with raising our children. And like this is the thing of the internet. We meet all these
mhm,
amazing people and
mhm,
these amazing things. So we don't have to have that 9 to 5 job anymore. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Um, So yeah, I think that's really beautiful that you just landed there through that. It's funny how life can kind of just take us on these little adventures.
Yeah, for sure. And I think about it too, like, teaching, it's not that I d gave up teaching because, in a way, I feel like, this opportunity and just me using Instagram is a way to educate people on something that I'm passionate about, which is really where my heart is. And so, yeah, the teaching doesn't stop.
No.
It just kind of transforms into the season that you're in. And, yeah, I feel I want women to know that you can change. You don't have to be in that box that they've kind of built and kind of push us in because yeah, I mean, even this morning as I was putting my son to sleep, it's like I felt this with teaching, and this was something that I realized I was like, oh my gosh, I can't keep showing up to this job and doing this. It was when my students came in to work with me and they would want to tell me about their life. And I'd be like, we don't have time. I can't, we need to get to what I need to teach you. And I remember going home being like, I just shut his weekend, the thing he was excited to tell me
Mhm.
and in a way, we're like the moms because we're with those kids most of the 80% of the day, right?
Yeah.
And I had to shut that down. And it was like, oh no, I can't live a life because that kills me. And then it's like, I think moms who are working 9 to 5s sometimes get in this rhythm of just being aggravated because they have so much that they have to do because they just went to work and they need to cook and they need to clean and they can't sit and be present for their kids. And
Yeah.
it's like, with Lenny and my son, when he's crying and having a difficult time during that time or whatever it is, I can just sit. I can sit with him and I don't feel like I need to be doing stuff because this is the way I really feel like it was designed is for a mom to sit and hold that space and not be, there are times where I definitely get aggravated at a situation because I'm like, oh my gosh. But for the most part, I'm holding a container and I'm not like trying to, I don't know, it's just I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, it's true. I think that there's this expectation that has been put on women to kind of do it all, and we're not meant to do it all. Um,
Mhm.
like personally for me, a bit of like my backstory of everything is I was a hairstylist and I hustled like
Mhm.
a good chunk of my 20s and then I never envisioned myself like having children um and then anyway, met the right person, saw that, and I was told I probably would never have children. And so then we tried, I got pregnant immediately, which was great and wonderful and whatever. But then this huge like transformation happened within me and it's still happening as I'm going on and my son's 4 now, but it's it amazes me what mothers can do and also um I'm having that privilege of like being my own boss and which is amazing, but it's like trying to learn how to slow down and realize like you don't have to do everything. You're not meant to do everything, and it's not doing good for you or your children to try to do everything and be perfect. Like live less
Right,
timetable is definitely something I try to push with people. Like you don't have to get that done right away. You know what I mean? So
right.
yeah, I feel
Yeah.
all of that. No, it's pretty wild the expectation still today in 2025 what we have for women to get to do.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily in any way am I blaming women, but it's
No.
more of an encouragement for women to tap in and put a foot down to it, right? Like it's going to take um something from within you to really put your heel in the dirt and be like, yeah, no, I'm not. I don't want to move this fast anymore. And understanding, I think too, the role of your husband and like the role of the masculine and the role of the feminine, right? My husband wants to provide and he will grind and grind until so he works like I kind of set the tone and he makes sure stuff gets done. So it's been a lot too of me just being like, no, we don't need to do that. And he'll say he is, your husband has to honor you, but I think people don't realize that the role of the feminine and the mom in the family, and it is that slow and gentle um, essence that, when we're working 9 to 5s, it kind of gets put way back on the back burner. And for me, for sure, quitting my job, um, you don't even understand how all of a sudden this softness starts coming and it's like this wisdom. It's clicking inside you. Like I have no problem saying no to things. I have no problems it sitting in my house all day without the TV on and just being in silence with my son. And it's amazing. So I want women to tap into that because I do feel like, and maybe we'll talk about this later, is intuition. I really think that we have squandered this in women, and yeah, we have to be careful because we are really revered. I mean, back in time, way back in time, the women were very close to gods. I mean, men knew this. And so how do you, I know not everyone's as deep as I am in like matrix or things like that nature, but I do know women can feel their intuition, and it's something that I don't know men necessarily were anointed with on the level of women.
Yeah,
They were anointed with other things that I am glad I wasn't, but do you know what I'm saying?
100%. Yeah, there's this thing that I had heard recently from a friend, and it's that we've become instinct injured. So we like women don't have their intuition, and
Yeah.
neither do men, really in this society. And it's trying to get back into the way we are supposed to live. Like we are supposed to live cyclically, right? Like women,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we have to honor that we are supposed to slow down. We're not supposed to be going all the time like a man can.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that like totally from everything in life for a woman, like, and when you have children, even more so, like birth, you really have to learn how to tap into your intuition, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. So speaking of which, so walk me through your your home birth and like what brought you to wanting a home birth? How did it feel like preparing for that? And like what really kind of drew you into it?
Oh, okay. So I am, my husband's gonna laugh, but because I always bring this up, but I'm naturally like so textbook Aquarius. I have always, like, if you're saying go left, I'm gonna go right. There's just been this kind of anarchist inside me since I was little. I mean, my family likes to make fun of me, but also knowing that, it's a part of who I am, and it's a beautiful thing. Um, Especially when you're challenging narratives that a lot of people just blindly follow. Like I didn't do that and I'm grateful. But so it kind of started, I think my journey was honestly probably, I would like to say, COVID started kind of shifting just where I was sitting with things. And I think not just me, everyone. I think that was
I
like
agree. Yeah.
a, globally, people were just kind of sitting back and one of the beautiful things about COVID was it gave people a lot of time to sit and how you chose to use that time
Yeah.
kind of, you know, but I think that kind of started changing just my idea and way of the world. Like, who's in charge here? What are people doing? And then slowly, I began getting curious just about food. And, you're listening to podcasts, and I'm guilty of this. I'm someone who doesn't need to listen to music. I enjoy it, and I enjoy Fleetwood Mac, like a good record, but I love listening to podcasts and, and getting information. And so I'm listening to these podcasts. And like I said, one day I was listening to um Shervin. He actually owns the supplement company Symbiotica. He's amazing, but I was listening to his podcast called Wake the Fake Up. And he had a woman come on and talk about, he was more health. He was a lot of health stuff. So I was hungry for that. And then he had a woman come on and talk about her experience with an orgasmic birth. And I was like, no way. Like, I'm someone who calls stuff out when I see it. And I was like, no, you're lying. I couldn't believe it. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm intrigued. I'm going to listen. And she was talking about her experience and just, how easeful it was for her. And she's starting to talking about what her body was doing, like how she was going into cat and cow. And I'm like, these are things that don't seem like it didn't sound like a horror movie, which is the picture that we have, I believe, um, strategically been programmed with as women.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. So that was kind of, again, like I said, there have been moments as I get older. I think if people have gotten to a place where they are allowing, God and the creator to touch you, he will at different moments. And that was a moment that I just felt like he kind of was like, ding. And then it was like, I was hungry to learn about birth. I was really wanting to understand the system around birth. Well, then I was watching Netflix, and then the documentary popped up of, tell me, it's famous, infamous for she documented her home birth. The
Like the business of being born, or
Yes, thank you.
yeah.
That's exactly what it was. Yes. And so one day weekend, I'm like, I'm gonna watch this. I'm sobbing by the end because I'm just like, what have we been programmed? It was like walking into a building that you have never, like, you can't even, the feelings, because again, we're rooted. We are created for this. And it's been, the doors been shut, locked, sealed. And it was like when you are woken up to it,
Yeah.
you there's a sense of ease in the process. I'm not saying that it wasn't. So, you know, let's move forward. So I'm curious about birth. I'm getting more and more trusting and understanding that we've been conditioned to fear this, and that actually, when you're thinking about a woman and how she's designed by the creator, I can't think of anything more natural at this point. And so then we get pregnant, and it was like I just kind of was talking to Tanner, I think before we got pregnant. My husband's an ER nurse, so he's in the medical system. And he is my Gemini lover, and he will listen and entertain things. He doesn't necessarily always agree with me, but he never shuts anything that I present to him down. And he knows I'm a deep thinker. Like, I think deeply about stuff. And so I kind of started presenting to him, hey, what do you think about this? And at the time we were living in Sedona, or outside, like Cottonwood near Sedona. And so there is just a different energy in that space. Um, and we found out I was pregnant, and the moment I found out, I said, yeah, I really trust myself as a female to not have to be under the care of someone else, aside from like a midwife. Like, I was like, this is my journey, this is my story. And I kind of knew and was aware of the hijacking that can take place when, and that's not everybody's experience, right? But for the most part, I was like, yep. I talked to Tanner about it. I originally had said when I found out I was pregnant, and Tanner was, I thought he was going to die because I just showed him the stick. And I said, I really feel like I kind of want to do this by myself. Like maybe, like, would you go down to the river with me? And I was low key, I was kind of being serious where there was this feeling of like, I don't want to share this with anybody. I want this to be all mine. I
Yeah.
don't want this. This is so my experience. And Tanner looked at me and he was like, don't ever say anything so stupid like that ever again. Now, he had just found out we were pregnant. I love free birth. And I honestly have talked about maybe doing it for my second and third, but it was just kind of one of those things where he was like, we're not going on that end of the spectrum. And I said, okay, can I do a home birth with a midwife? And he said, okay, I'd want to go meet her, and it kind of progressed into that. But um I was pretty much sold on it. I called my midwife, who was amazing, and we met with her, and I started buying books and reading, and it just was affirming more of how this design is. There 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 are no errors in this design. There can be situations where complications occur, but at its root, this is a foolproof design.
Yeah.
And yeah, it didn't take him a lot to get him on board. And my family, it was definitely new for my family. And my stepdad is a heart doctor. So he is in the medical field. So there was a lot of, but they knew because since I was little, I never did the traditional. So they kind of knew to zip it and just watch, but I think it opened a lot of eyes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's amazing.
I
I love
was
that.
like,
No, it's really cool. I love like how people's kind of thought processes get them to their birth.
yeah.
Because yeah, we all go into it with like different perspectives and different fears and different backgrounds of what we've experienced in life, right? And
Hmm.
home birth, I'm super biased and like home birth is my favorite birth to attend. Um,
Hmm.
it's not that like I'm against the hospital or anything like that. I just think the home is so much more calming and it's always chill. It's always chill at a home
Hmm.
versus the
Hmm.
hospital. And
Hmm.
it's just it always amazes me when I watch these women birth at home and like just see them in their power. It's really amazing. Um,
Hmm.
so so your home birth and then so you had a water birth. Um,
Yep. I had a water birth.
yeah. And was that like with your research and things like that, was that something that really called to you? Like,
I love taking, so here's literally my thought process. When I love taking baths.
yeah.
And that was just something that I was like, it's not even that I necessarily I enjoy swimming, but I don't, it was more of just, I love sitting in hot water.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't know, aside from it was just, and this is where it's such a testament to how this is such a, I like am wanting, I gotta think of something I could put on a t-shirt that is just nails it, because the reality is this whole thing, if you sit and you say, okay, speak to me, like, you ask the creator to just let you sit in who you were designed to be, and you literally, the answers come to you. You don't even have to think of them. Your
Yeah.
body will tell you what it wants, and that's birth in your spark notes,
Yeah.
is you can just let go of the thinking and just sit, and it will happen. Seriously, it's incredible. But yeah, I don't know. Besides, my body just said, I think you are fit for a water birth, and during the process, it was kind of quick for me, and we can talk about this later because I do think this is super important is the fact of waiting and not cutting I shouldn't say cut the cord before it's ready, but like letting your baby in your body complete what is needed to be completed.
Yeah.
So anyways, I had a fairly quick birth, roughly under 6 hours. So I was in the water. I think I got out one time. I started having contractions out and then I sat in it. And then I think I got out when Tanner was putting more hot water in. But after that, my midwives had, gently said, would you like to get up and move? And I was sat. I was like, no, I feel really comfortable in here. And again, my body was really just because what happens is when you're doing a natural physiological, your brain goes straight to primitive. You're shut off. So you're really not thinking about it. Your decisions are not led by the mind. They are definitely from God and your body and your baby. You
Yes.
know?
Instinctual, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember her asking me, and it was like my body was like, do not get out of the pool. So I didn't. And I loved it.
That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's always when I observe birth, so I never actually like felt contractions or anything. I had a C-section.
Yeah.
So I just see from like the outside. But whenever I'm with women and they're birthing and there's a switch that just happens and I'm like, she's not here no more. Let her do
Yeah. Right.
her.
Can't come to the door. Busy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
like
so true.
it's so funny. One of the home births I was at, like, the mother's partner was trying to like get her attention. I'm like, no, no, she's not here anymore. Just let her do her thing. And they're
Yep.
like, is she okay? And they were like so worried. And I was like,
Yeah.
she's fine. She's just in birthland. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, you just go, you like you're transported, right? And I've seen it time and time again.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's
no,
so
this
funny.
baby's coming.
Yep. And I remember too how important that was. Um, Gosh, I'm sorry. I think about how much I wish, there's nothing I don't have and I don't judge, the hospitals scene at all,
Yeah.
but I wish that they were educated on how how the physiological birth is supposed to look. And not that there's one right way, right? But there is generally like if you watch, we talk about the wild, it's quiet. The cat's not birthing in the construction zone,
Yeah.
and so I remember too when I was going through when I would have a surge, my midwife even she would want to check underneath, what are you checking the contraction or how baby is feeling? I'm not even sure. She would take the probe and when I was having a surge, she'd be down there. And even then, it was too much going on. And I remember Tanner and her would be talking, whispering.
Mhm.
And during when I would have a surge, like it was my hand was up and that wasn't even just thinking. That was like body saying, nope, no noise, no noise. I can't because it pulls me out of this state that it's necessary for me to be in. And I think about too, at a hospital you have these machines and these hookups and these people coming in. I want people to understand, I think about it, the reason that I think birth can people can experience this, it's not, it is pain, but it's caused by distraction,
Yeah.
unnecessary distraction. I want people to know you can breathe through pain, which is pressure,
Yeah.
and successfully. But when you have so much going on around you, that's not your fault.
Mhm.
That's not your fault. That's your body fighting all this stuff that is really they're trying to shut down so you can do what you need to do. And I'm just like that's another reason I would never I can't it would be painful if I was in a hospital and I had to hear all of that commotion going on. I think I would have experienced a painful
Yeah.
birth, and I didn't because I had that space that I was in control of,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, in the hospitals it can be overstimulating because
Gotcha.
yeah, there's the harsh lights, like we do dim lights and things like that, but like sometimes people just come in and switch the lights on and then they just start talking loudly and it's abrasive, right? Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, it's those things you try your best, but you're not in your most coziest environment. And like, there's things that happen where hospital births happen, but
Hmm.
yes, when you're in your own environment in your home, there's so much more control. You have so much
Hmm.
more autonomy because you're in
Hmm.
your space and you can be like, hey, everybody stop talking.
Yep.
There's also this thing too, I don't know if you knew this, but like actually if people are whispering around us, that makes our body feel unsafe. So if people
Oh,
actually talk low instead of
mhm.
whispering,
Yeah.
you don't usually the mom doesn't hear people just talking low, but when you whisper, your brain's like, what are they whispering about? Like you start to have concern. So that can happen where it's like, okay, stop.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
That's a good
that's
point. I
kind
didn't
of
think about it, but it makes a lot of sense.
yeah. So like if we hear those whisperings or people kind of like tiptoeing, like our body feels like someone's like it's kind of
Yep.
like an animal, right? Right? Like out in the woods, if they start hearing people tiptoeing around them about like a predator kind of thing, like they don't feel safe in
Yeah.
that space. So like if you feel someone being tiptoeing and whispering, it can feel unsafe because you're like, okay, what are you talking about? And it brings you out of your space.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's funny that you said that because it's a thing that it's a reason.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, that's amazing. And so when you were in the pool, like, do you find like the warm water really helped like with those contractions and giving you like hydrotherapy?
I I I think that it did. It felt good. I like to be warm. I don't like to be cold. So I know that just having warm water helped, but um honestly, again, I think that if your body is making that executive call, listen to that. If you are someone who wants to be in the shower because you like the constant, almost massage of the water,
Yeah.
or if you are someone who, wants to be on all fours on the bed, listen to that. Um, but I don't necessarily know if the water played a role in me successfully moving through surges. I think that for me, that was just a lot of
It was your comfort.
yeah, and the biggest difference because I think that I could give birth in a hospital in this if I had to, you know, not that I would want to, but and I definitely would have low light and the things that I know would make it a more
Yeah.
pleasurable experience for me. But the number one thing that totally shuts so much down is accepting that this is so natural and when you become your number one biggest fan in believing what you can do, it's I could probably birth in a construction zone. I wouldn't like it, but because I'm so secure
Yeah.
and there's not this insecurity, and the insecurity comes from, I think, ignorance in the sense of they just don't know.
Yeah.
They haven't educated themselves. Just like if I were to break my leg, I really don't know anything about bones or how to do that. So I would go to someone to get help, right? But if I knew how to take care, and this is where you see, like, if people like a mechanic, when they're not going to take their car somewhere to get fixed because they know how to do it, that right? And so it's like when you become so sure of what your body can do and you're not insecure, man, you can get through. I just remember thinking, I know what my body's doing. I know I'm opening up. I know that I'm stretching this way. My uterus is going this way and this way. And it was like that really brought 99% of the piece that I was able to get through this. And the rest was just the mental coaching was just, you're feeling a lot of pressure. This is the most pressure you're probably ever going to feel, but you're okay. You're safe. I was able to take accountability for my experience
Yeah.
and not give that to other people because I didn't educate myself.
Yeah.
Does that, I feel like I hope I'm
Yeah.
making sense. I know I can ramble, but
100%.
yeah.
That's a big thing, like, that I go into supporting families, like in our prenatals, is we need to go through your fears and all that and really tap into them because it's a mental game. Um,
Mhm.
when you are in labor, if you don't find those tools to self-soothe, and also have your support system around you, anchoring you in to tell you, like, you're good. This is what's happening right now, like, and getting you away from that fear, because then we start to get into that fear, tension, pain cycle, and
Mhm. Yeah.
so that's what I always, we do these prenatals so that people going in, it's like you have to set your intention and we have to like leave everything at the door because yeah, you're not gonna survive if you don't have those tools to learn to cope with it, because it can
Mhm.
get out of hand, right? Pain can get out of hand
Oh,
in
sure.
any way in life, not just birth, um,
Yep.
if we don't
Yeah.
know how to cope. So
Hmm.
yeah, because there's a lot of things, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, I totally know what you're saying. Um, and then what did it look like for you, like afterward, postpartum, like immediate postpartum, um and then like your 6 week window. I don't know if you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, something I don't want to forget to say, sorry, as I'm thinking about my birth, which I think about almost every day, but the one thing, so I really was blessed with a really wonderful pregnancy. I don't think it was necessarily all coincidence. I was working out a lot. I went to the chiropractor. My husband was very supportive. I wasn't living in stress, which all um, can have a huge effect on your pregnancy. And the reason that I feel comfortable speaking to this is because, my mom had my brother and I, but she had over 8 miscarriages, and it was very hard for her to keep a pregnancy, and she was living in an extremely stressful
Yeah.
environment. And there was a lot of other things, but I do want to say, make sure that you are, and that might be saying no and slowing down, right? Because stress is huge. So just make sure that you are in an environment where you feel safe, because you can't come to this place with birth. It is such a big, it's what you were created to do. It's the best and the biggest thing that I feel like a woman gets to experience, and you can't come to that place if you're worried about what's going on outside. But anyway, so I had a great pregnancy, and I wasn't buying into, this is also important too, is like not comparing your story to everyone else's,
Yeah.
because birth is so, I think of like an IEP is where I'm going with, like, being a special education teacher. These are all individualized plans.
Yeah.
Yours is so different. However, the basic principle of how it works is somewhat the same, but I didn't buy into, how long someone was pregnant or what they were. I kind of just, again, totally told God, you created this and you gave me the ability to feel how feel and tap into my body. So I had deli meat. I, drank raw milk. I wasn't concerned about these things. You shouldn't do this. If I did something and it didn't feel right, I wasn't drinking, obviously, or doing those things, but
Yeah.
if there was something major that didn't feel right, I just said, okay, how do I feel my body? Let's move forward and not do that. Well, the whole time I was getting close to my pregnancy, I was at 40 weeks, 41 weeks, and I felt great. Like, I remember waking up and being like, dang, I just kind of want to wake up and feel like really pregnant and really ready to give birth. And it's not happening. I feel like I actually took off work at 38 weeks, and I was into my 41 week, and I was like, geez, I could have still been working. Tanner's like, do you want to go back to work? I'm like, well, not now. You could come any day. But what I didn't, there had to be a point. I remember I never even thought about the hospital. Like, it was so in the back of my brain because I was so comfortable and confident in my body and what I was created to do. And it got to a point where I was 41 and 5, and my midwife was like, so I can go past 42, but you're not like I wasn't going into labor. It was so frustrating. I was so healthy and all these things. And I'm like, what is going on? I was mad. I was frustrated because I felt like I had done so much pre-work into making this, be the pregnancy and birth of my dreams. And my midwife was like, if I really would recommend if you're not at 40, like I was at 42 at this point, like one day she's like, we're gonna have to, I think we should maybe talk about getting induced, just because the placenta expires. But I lost it. It was my first time like really feeling fear.
Mhm.
I maybe is the right word, not because I was fearful to give birth, but I know what being induced can look like with Pitocin. And I didn't want that. And so this is so important because looking back, birth is, people think birth is 95, like it's all about the baby. I would argue pregnancy and birth is like 90% or 85% for the mother. It is really a time and a season for you're the caterpillar.
Yeah.
We think it's the baby, but it really is you're meeting God at so many different times. And this was it for me. I had to release the fact that I may have to go to a hospital to get induced, not because I'm scared to give birth, not because of a complicated, because my body's just not going into labor.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And I never, ever, I was thinking I would go to the hospital if like my placenta had ruptured or something. You know what I mean? It was not this.
Yeah.
It was not going to be this. And I cried and I cried and eventually said, I remember that night I said to Tanner, can you just pray over us right now? Because I've pretty much told God I'm okay with how it goes, but I just want, wrap your protection as the head of the house. And he did, he prayed. And the next day I woke up and I had 6:30. I hadn't even said good morning to Tanner and I felt water going down my leg. And I was like, Tanner, I think my water just broke. And he woke up and he even said, I was literally just having a dream that your water broke. It was weird. It was weird. But what I'm telling you is there's this release that has to happen. And you may not know that you don't know where it is. It's going to show up in birth. So the point is your body, like I believe that my body was taking me that far over my due date
Mhm.
to I wasn't finished. It was not mission complete until I completely let go of everything and really just said, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Whatever you want, bring it, and it's going to be. And then I was able to my body said, okay, she's ready. And baby said, okay, she's ready. And so anyways, that's why I'm like, don't rush the process of birth before because you may miss out on a very pivotal moment with God that he wants to get with you before, and there's a release. And that was my release. And it was so funny because I hear people talk about this release
Yeah.
that happens with a woman. And I was like, yep, that was definitely mine. So anyway, to answer your question about after birth, I really wanted to try and keep the rule of 777, seven. What is it? Seven
Five,
in
five,
bed?
five.
Is it 555? Okay. Seven in bed or five in bed, five near the bed, and five around the bed. Or I get the last two.
Five in the bed, five on the bed, five around the bed.
Okay. Okay. So I really did a lot of reading and research and I wish I did even more, but the 40 days, which I wish was talked about more and actually implemented with women. But that is really just a sacred 40 days of you really not leaving the bed at all. And this was my first one. So I stayed in bed for the first 5 days. And then I kind of moved to the living room, but I did not leave the house. I was proud of myself for the first 21 days. And that that was really important for me. And I think it was really important for Lenny because my birth, he was born and call. Am I saying that right?
Uh,
And call with his water sack around his head.
yeah.
Lenny was.
And
And
call,
he,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so I had tore twice. And my midwife actually said, you tore so nicely that you'll naturally heal in about 2 weeks. And I said, well, I'm not leaving. So I was very raw. I was very raw. So I really didn't like it was uncomfortable for me to kind of leave my bed. Um, but so before I had given birth, my mom came over. We meal prepped a lot, and I highly recommend this book, and you may know it, but what is it, the first 40 days of of after birth or something? It's a cookbook.
The
It's
first
a
few
cook.
days.
Oh, is it just the first 40 days?
Yeah.
Okay. I had bought that book. I really recommend it. It's got, if you grew up like me in a small town in Wisconsin, you probably haven't eaten 90% of the foods in there and you had to Google what they were and what they did, which is sad. But it's really nourishing food. And I had made that with my mom and freezer prepped, which helped a lot. But it made it so much easier because Tanner would just go to the fridge or the freezer, grab that, make that for me every morning. And I didn't leave for 21 days. And again, it makes me sad, this bounce back culture that we have and how women want to get out. And I'm not saying that women, definitely, there were times where I wanted to get out. But again, it's that conditioning and that not listening to your head and sitting in your body,
Yeah.
that we need to come back to because really there is so much going on and, hormonally and just a change in your whole world. Like it literally is a different world. And I feel it's so important to sit there and struggle with your baby. You're two people doing this together. There's something, I don't want to use the term like you're trauma bonding, but in a way, you are bonding through this beautiful experience that really, is just for you two. Like your husband, no matter how much, he's not in this. He is supporting, but he's not really
Yeah.
like in it, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
I'm glad I stuck to the 21 days because it was for me really important. And I know it is just naturally for women.
Yeah. It's something I really encourage women always to look into their postpartum. We do all this preparing for birth and worrying about birth, but we don't worry about our postpartum, even
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
We're approaching 2026 and still people, when I bring up in consults, like, or a prenatal, we're doing a postpartum preparation, they're like, what do you mean? And it's like, well, you need to take care of yourself. You can't do everything for your house anymore. Like, this is your
Yeah.
time, right? And there's so much that comes to every single time you have a baby, whether it's your first, whether it's your fifth. There's something different every postpartum for you. And we're grieving who we were before, always, because
Yep. Yep.
we are losing freedom, but we're starting to get comfortable with it is freeing to slow down. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yes, we're grieving what we once had, and then we're also feeling um inspired and encouraged for what's to come. So there's this
Mm-hmm.
weird time mentally for postpartum, while we're also healing from birthing a baby, while
Yeah.
we're also taking care of a child or multiple children, and our relationship with our partner. Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things going on, and I think we can't just this bounce back culture, as you said, of like get back with it. Like we're just supposed to forget. And I know it's very different in the US than it is in Canada. Um, like you guys, I don't think have as long maternity leave as we do.
No, no, it's unpaid. As a teacher, I think I would have gotten. Now, I quit my job at 38 weeks. Well, I said I wasn't coming back once I had my baby, and they were, I did love where I worked. and they were very understanding of all that. But if I would have, had him in the middle of the year, it would have been 2 weeks of unpaid leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very sad.
It's super sad. And it was funny. I never really had thought about it until so I just finished like a an extra postpartum education for it's Ayurvedic focus. So it's for like they do 42 days window. And so I went to Massachusetts for part of my in-person training. And when I was there and I was talking to all these women from the US, me and a friend went, we were the only two Canadians, and then they were talking about things like even our midwifery is different here in Canada. We're much more regulated and to a fault almost.
Mm,
So whenever I was having these conversations, I was like, wow, okay in Can like we're very privileged in Canada. Like we get a year of paid
yeah.
maternity leave. And you can even do up to 18 months. It's just less pay. And you can go off early and that doesn't impede on your maternity leave.
Hmm.
So it's amazing. But I like for myself, whenever I had my son, I did not take care of myself. The only
Yeah.
good thing that came like from my C-section was that I couldn't drive for 6 weeks and I honored
Right.
so no matter what, I couldn't leave the house. It was also in
You were
COVID.
forced.
So
Yeah.
it's like I couldn't leave anyway. And yeah, so there was like that was the one good thing from that was like I had to relax for 6 weeks. But then once I was just like I had to go, go, go. Like I was always on the go and I never took a time to settle down and that really impacted my health beyond measure. And um so things I really try to encourage people is like look into your postpartum window and really plan it and try to slow down and be intentional with it and get comfortable with being uncomfortable because it's going
Yeah.
to really impact you in such a great way down the road. Because, like, there's this thing in Ayurveda and it's called 42 days for 42 years. So they say how we take care of ourselves in postpartum is going to impact how we have in menopause
Yep.
in our bodies. So like when we get into those greater years, if we take care of ourselves in postpartum, it is shown that we'll have a better time going through that transition in life with menopause. So I really believe if we just learn to be uncomfortable in our postpartum and like try to let go of all of that, I need to go, I need to do this, and nourish yourself. Because I can't speak for everyone, but definitely for myself, I feel like a good chunk of my life, I did not take care of myself. And I was worrying about other people and just going and pushing myself to my limits. And
Mhm.
that definitely impacted my early mothering and marriage and things like that. But now I've slowed down. I've learned to slow down and say no, like you're saying. Then you get
Mhm.
comfortable with that. In order to really be, in my opinion, the healthiest we can be for ourselves and the people around us is to take care of ourselves in our postpartum window. If you're a person who has a child, because it teaches you a lot of things. And I think you have to be open to being taught these lessons in life, like and willing to, feel everything all at once and take in all that comes from it because yeah, even just like taking in how wild birthing a baby is, you know what I mean? And all the things that come from that. Like it's a wild ride, whether however way that baby came out of you, um, that's a lot to unpack no matter what, no matter how beautiful and physiological it is, there's still a part of us that's like, wow, that was some wild stuff that just happened to me.
It is the most euphoric and psychedelic experience. I, and while I'm listening to you talk about this, because it's so true that I just keep coming back to, you know, I feel like we need to really, I don't mean to sound woo-woo, but if you don't think birth is spiritual at its science, like the fact that an egg and a sperm can create this snowball of what comes from birth, I think the most important thing is, yeah, through pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, you are in a spiritual, you're in a spiritual state.
Hmm.
When you leave the spirituality, you're now going back into the physical.
Yeah.
It's not a time for physical reality.
Yeah.
It's not. I am sorry. From the moment you can feel the first kick, we're not in a we're 3D world. It's like,
It,
no, I'm sorry. I'm in the heavens. I am in a any woman who's experienced this can I feel like knows what I'm saying is it's the whole thing is spiritual and you don't want to leave that spiritual world until it's time. And like you said, it's like that postpartum, I see women where I it's almost like they're trying to like after they have their baby, they want their world to feel the same. It's not
uh,
supposed to.
no.
It's not supposed to be the same. Otherwise, why did you choose to have a kid? But I think, like you said, rushing out of that postpartum, man, and this is where possibly, I mean, I'm making an assumption possibly, but I can see where women could potentially have this weird where you're stuck in this phase where you're like you want this old life and you don't know what to do with this new life and you maybe could be frustrated or resentful or and that could be rushing through your postpartum
Yeah.
because like you said you're in entering a new world giving birth is a big deal but like you said postpartum, you are grieving. And I think it's okay to understand. You don't feel like, I feel like there's sometimes this shame or like you shouldn't be grieving, like it
It's
feels
not a
wrong to
bad
be
thing.
grieving.
Yeah. No.
No, it's actually, it's okay to be grieving,
Yeah.
but excited for what's coming, right? Like, this, and you hit it right on the head. Like, I don't think people understand that you're not done with this transformation until you have exited the postpartum.
Yeah.
I think that that makes a lot of sense. Like I'm just walking through it with you. I mean, I knew how important postpartum was, but it's like clicking this. I see these women and I'm just like, but you were at Target 4 days after you gave birth. And that's not me judging. I'm not,
No.
and people are willing to, do what I always come back to. You need to again follow I hope you're following what your heart says. And if your heart is saying go to Target and not all these women you're seeing going to Target after they've had a kid,
Yeah.
you know, you do you. That's trust the intuition. But I see this with women and I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of
I
sense. It
think
makes a lot of sense.
that, yeah, I really think that is where like that instinct injury like comes from because
Mhm.
that is we are taught not to listen to our instincts anymore. And if we actually tapped into our like immediate postpartum, even let's say,
Mhm.
our instinct is to rest. But
Mhm.
we are told we have to have everything together and do everything, right? And
Mhm.
we don't unfortunately have those villages anymore in this day and age. And there's also like people want a village, but people aren't willing to be a village.
Yeah.
It's,
Or villager. I don't know if you posted that.
yeah.
And I was like, wow, that is someone. And I was like, yeah, that's spot on.
Yeah. So this is the thing. It's like we want people to show up for us, but there's pieces to it. We're uncomfortable with people showing up for us because we don't know how to take that in. And I see
Mhm.
that all the time when I'm at postpartum for homes. I do like cooking and cleaning and I help you with everything. And moms don't know how to take that in initially because they don't know how to release that and let me do it. But once they do, by the end of our 6 weeks, like we're both crying together because we've created this beautiful relationship. And if we let people help us, and this is the other thing I talk about with people is like we need to find the people that we know are not going to hurt our mental health, that are willing to help us and be our village. Because yes, to have your mom. help you, but sometimes your mom's not going to be good for your mental health, right?
Absolutely.
And that's okay. But we need to be aware of that before we get into postpartum and we're just like grasping at straws for help.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, there's all these pieces. We're expected to do it all. We're also scared to let people help us. Like it's almost feels like people think that they're failing if they ask for help. And it's not. We all need help, right? And then yeah, we want a village, but we also don't know how to be a village anymore. Like there's all these pieces.
It's so true.
Yeah, I truly think if you and like with your spirituality and what like you're talking about, this is like I'm sure I think you've seen this the academy I'm starting. That's
Yeah.
what it like we need some kind of faith and spirituality to anchor us all, through everything.
Yeah.
Preconception, pregnancy, like all of it. And we also need to be like mentally prepared, physically prepared, and like just all of the above because it is such a whirlwind. And this thing in Ayurveda, especially for like postpartum, we're we're in, I won't get into all of it because it's a lot, but we're all made up of all these different doshas. And
Hmm.
the elements that we're in postpartum is Vata. So we're like spacey, we're very airy, like we're kind of all over the place. And we're in like a different realm almost is kind of how they say it. Like we've done the birth, which we're literally just like everywhere, and then we go into this postpartum, and now we have this empty womb. So it's that's like the air and the coldness. So we got to warm ourselves up, and we got to nourish ourselves and take care of ourselves, and um we got to kind of bring that back in. But if we don't give ourselves the space to heal and get out of that spacey, airy kind ofness, then we're gonna just keep being in it. And
Hmm.
so we're just gonna keep having more add on in our life. And so I'm always like so determinate on telling people, yes, 100% preparing for your birth, you should do that, but super so much like prepare for your postpartum because
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. Yeah. And again, even just the things that come to, yeah, I 100% agree with what you're saying. And this was one of the things too, even just with breastfeeding, that
Yeah.
I remember telling my friends, like, what was breastfeeding was harder than the birth. And not because I just had this super easy breezy. I mean, I cherish my birth and I think that I was really prepared for it and I was able to, like you said, mentally work myself through it where it wasn't this traumatic experience. But breastfeeding, so hard. And I had the same thought. What we put so much into the birth and scare women about birth, which we can do in a coma. Women have delivered in a coma because it is so hands off.
You don't have to push. You literally, baby,
No,
they're
you
coming into
don't.
you. Yep.
I know. I know. And I'm like, there's so much around this birth. And then like no one talked about the breastfeeding. And that was the hard one.
Yeah.
Mentally for me, it was really hard. And if I didn't take, going back to that period of postpartum, if I didn't take that time in the house,
Mhm.
we saw two different lactation consultants. That's the only time I left was to go to their house. But if I would have been up and going and doing, I don't want to say because I knew how great breast milk was for the baby, but I can see where this leads into women wanting to just ditch it because you're again, now you're in your physical body and you've left your spiritual realm of finishing this this transformation. And I could see where giving up on breastfeeding, where if I wasn't at home resting and struggling, I don't know if I would have pushed all the way through. And that was something too, breastfeeding, staying there and crying and, working with my baby over and over, trying to get this to work. And my husband sitting there and saying, there, understanding my why, like, keep going. And as soon as it clicked, like after a month, it's my favorite thing now.
Yeah.
I could do it all that, but I again, like you're saying, I don't know if I could have met that time if I didn't sit in that period. So yeah, it's so important. You're right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and this is a really another thing like I'm super passionate about is breastfeeding. We see a lot of people who rush recovery don't usually have a really good success rate with breastfeeding. And that is
Mhm.
because if our body isn't, if we're not taking care of our body, we can't feed a baby, right? Like there's something I always say to moms is if you aren't fed, you can't feed your baby. If you're
Mhm.
like running on empty, you can't feed your baby. If you're stressed to the max, you
Mhm.
can't feed your baby because our body goes into survival mode. It's like I need to take care of you because you aren't taking care of yourself, so I got to do, and you start to run more depleted, and so we don't produce as much milk as we need to, right? So if we're taking care of ourselves and we're doing all that, besides like getting into the baby, just ourselves, because there's issues that can come up with breastfeeding with our baby too, but if we're super disconnected, we can't connect with our baby because we're not even connected with ourselves, right?
Mhm.
So it's a lot of mental, and we need to be able to produce like oxytocin and prolactin. So like oxytocin is what makes us have a our letdown. So as we know, oxytocin literally travels through all of everything. It's how we make a baby, it's how we birth a baby, and it's also how we feed our baby and how we heal. So if we aren't releasing good feeling hormones, because our cortisol is like shot out through the roof, then we're not going to have a successful rate with that. And so, yeah, if we do rush ourselves, unfortunately, that is kind of what the data shows is that we don't have good success rates because of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard. And like for me, I had a hard time with breastfeeding and where I live in Prince Edward Island, we have two lactation consultants and like one's in one end of the island, the other's around me. But you see them kind of like they're in the hospital. We have like two main hospitals. And I never saw her because she wasn't in on those days. And then I had a C-section and my baby, we never had skin to skin. He was gone. Um,
Mhm.
I didn't hold him till he was 9 hours old. So um, it was like trying to navigate a pump by myself, trying to figure out whenever they came in with him, they just threw him on me and they're like, "You good?" and walked away. Like it was quite an experience. So I didn't have that support. And my mom, she never breastfed. She bottle fed me and my sister, and so like I didn't have anyone really around me closely that knew how to do that or knew how to navigate because it took a long time for me to produce properly, even my colostrum. And I think a lot of that was the C-section and then the stress of everything else.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
when I finally like, there was a point that I hit where I was like, let it all go, let it all go,
Mhm.
or you're gonna go crazy. And then I just like the next morning, I'm not even joking, I just like filled with milk. It was insane. I like went up a cup size. It was insane. And
Oh my gosh, I love hearing this because again, it's a moment where you let go and you're constantly being, it's such a cool experience.
yeah,
Like,
and
I don't mean to, I'm sure you were frustrated, but it's
oh no,
beautiful.
no, it's that's the thing. It's like yes, it's a struggle, but like
Yeah,
you do need to just like stop stressing about it. Like
yeah.
it's easier said than done, but like it's a mental game. Everything's a mental game, and like if we just give into it, things will happen. And yeah, that happened for me, and he he did it. He grew. He started gaining the weight, and
So did you kind of teach yourself then a little
I
bit? Or-
I had so here we have public health. So public health will come, their nurses will
Okay.
come to your house and they'll weigh your baby and they'll do checks on you and them and whatever. They were giving me advice, but the advice was ridiculous. Um, they wanted me to they wanted me to feed my baby. They had me on this extreme timetable. And then they um wanted me to pump afterward and then top up my baby with that milk And then by the time you're all done of all of that, it's like it was time to feed him again. So it was like it was so much because I think they wanted me to do like 20 minutes one side, 20 minutes the other side, and then pump as much as I could do and then feed him. And then, yeah, by the time you clean and try to take care of yourself, it was too much. And they wanted me to do that 24/7. So, like, even through the day.
Did you ever get mastitis?
No.
See, I got it because I was went on this schedule. See, every time I would leave, what if I was started comparing myself to other people?
Yeah.
This was the other thing too. I know we're kind of all over the place, but I think about breastfeeding and it is so important. And I know not everyone gets the opportunity because of
Yeah.
things that come up to breastfeed, but also know there's a lot of people that have the opportunity to breastfeed, but because they don't know how to navigate these, or they, are they don't have a village
Yeah.
supporting them in the ways that they need to be, they give up on it. But I started looking at other women overproducing, and so I started pumping like 20 minutes break, 10 minutes break, 10 minutes. I got mastitis
Yeah.
maybe a week after I was pregnant. And at this time, I'm still not wearing pants. I'm still smelling like, and this may be TMI, but this is the reality of birth. I still, I'm deep with this iron smell because I'm still bleeding. And now I've got mastitis and I can't even hold my baby. Like my husband would have to come. But that was rooted in me kind of not just sitting and being like working through these challenges that continuously come up throughout birth. Like again, this is a teacher. This is a beautiful, like God said, you get to experience this. Men never will get to experience this. And instead it's just it sometimes it's like we want to make it so transactional and forget that it's really transformative,
Yeah.
and coming back to like what is, that is what gives women this badass energy. Is like I remember after I defeated the breastfeeding hump, when I made it over that, wow, I was like, anybody come mess with me, like you can't, like I done it all, man. And I think this is what is so cool, that women get to do this. And I remember feeling that over breastfeeding, like I stuck with it, and going back to again staying home for postpartum. When I was learning how to breastfeed, I didn't have a top on for almost the first 18 days. I was walking around, my mom's like, you have neighbors. I'm like, well, I guess, but I'm not concerned with it because if you're trying to go to Target and you're trying to do this and that and go to someone's house you can't have your breasts hanging out, or, I mean, depending on what party you're going to, but it's just like that's where, again, being home and allowing yourself to really just, yeah, is so important.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's the comfort of your home, right? And I think that's like an understatement is it is when people think of comfort, they usually think of home. And when you're literally still bleeding and healing and like you're just lactating all over the place and you're navigating all this, like I don't think you should be out doing a million things and
Yeah, yeah.
walking all around town and driving all around town and going out and outings and things like that. And there are learning lessons, right? Like I was that person. I tried to go out 2 weeks postpartum and I went over to like family dinner.
Yeah.
And after I was just like in so much pain because I'm still healing from a C-section. And it's like, what was I even thinking? You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
there's these things we have to let go of those expectations. And if people get annoyed that you're not like for a family dinner, for example, who
Leave.
cares?
Bye. Yeah, you mean it doesn't
I'm
have to be
busy.
drama. I'm busy healing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't, where did this come from, Alicia? I mean, I can guess where it came from, but you think about people who get ACL surgery. What is the most important thing that they tell you
Yeah.
is your recovery.
Yeah.
You have to take that serious. Like any other thing in the medical field, the recovery is so important.
Yeah.
When, our dogs gave birth throughout my entire childhood, after they gave birth to puppies, we weren't out running them, taking them hunting.
Yeah.
They were down in the basement, just sitting, resting, taking very good care. Isn't it weird how we're like these large mammals, and it's so backwards how we, yeah, it's wild to me that, we aren't putting those, I think, like you said, more people are, but like connecting those dots that, nature shows she is beautiful and she is the ultimate teacher. All you have to do is shut up and watch, listen to her.
Yeah, yeah, tap in, right?
Yeah.
No, it's so true. It's wild all of the things that we put up as put up with as women. Like I think it's beautiful for the gifts that we are given and we have to honor that whether like from like our period, like you have to honor that that is a beautiful thing and that is something that's telling you to rest. And the same with pregnancy and all everything so forth. We need to learn how to honor ourselves again and also let go of the expectations of society because really what does it matter at the end of the day, right? Like who cares if someone thinks differently of you? That's not your problem. You're going to be thriving in life if you're listening to your body, right? Like so yeah, I think we do need to let go of some of that societal standard and be okay with being weird because of society and really tapping back into what we're designed to do, literally.
Absolutely. And I think we will see changes from even how the relation, like the type of men that we are, when we honor ourselves as women and we know that, we're stop comparing like even this idea that men and women could be one of the same. Absolutely not.
Hmm.
Ever. But women need to, if you're not sitting in your power, you can easily be persuaded with that. Or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Or go along with that narrative.
Yep.
I'm like, the reason I'm all like, oh, hell no, is because I'm like, watch what I just did in that pool.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm sorry, you could go work. My husband can work 12-hour shifts for 4 days in a row. I could never. I mean,
Yeah.
there are things he does, but I'm like, no, we are very different. And when women can sit in their power and we love who we are and we know what we were designed to do, and we're secure in that, I think we'll even see these men out here wanting to change, like, and instead of seeing us as like, oh, we could be one of the, you work a 9 to 5, like, they're gonna sit and say, oh my God, you're holy. How should I treat this holy being? How should I show up because I want to court this holy being? And I don't mean to sound like, woo woo in this sense, but it's just there was a God designed it the way you know what I mean? We've got too
Oh
many cooks in
yeah.
the kitchen.
Yeah, no,
I
I
feel like,
totally agree with you. I don't think it's woo-woo. I think it's the
okay,
fact.
yeah,
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 no. I think it's definitely coming and I think there will be change and definitely over time I think some light bulb moments are going to keep happening for more and more people.
mhm,
But yeah, no, it starts with having these conversations, right?
yep, absolutely, yeah, and I love it. I mean, I know if you're like me, we could talk about this all the time because I get so jacked about it. Like,
Yeah.
this is so cool that women get to experience this.
Yeah.
And that is what I ultimately want for women is to, yeah, experience this if they truly want to. I'm
Yeah.
not telling everyone they need to have a natural physiological birth, but I am telling you that it is the most amazing thing that I do feel like we get. It's like ours.
Yeah.
Like, men don't get, there's so many, women get to experience this. And yeah, the last thing I want is someone who is not educated in it. Hi. Who is like, they don't know what is possible and they don't understand their body, that they miss out on it.
Yeah.
That's what I don't want. That would be my goal as someone is I want women to be so educated they can make the decision whether they want to or not. Now, my feeling is when you understand, you um you will want to do it naturally.
Yeah.
Look at that. I look at him every day. I'm like, I made that and I birthed that. This is Lenny. But so yeah.
Okay. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on here today. I
I
really
know I'm
appreciated it.
sorry. if I feel I don't mean to cut you short or feel like you are. I enjoyed this conversation
Oh
so
no,
much.
I feel like we have to be cut short. This is our sign because we're gonna chat about it all day because that's
Okay. Yeah, we will.
well, yeah, because we're both into it. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on here, and I really
Yes.
appreciate everything you brought to the table and all your wisdom. It was really amazing.
Well, thank you for hosting me. I really am honored that I got to speak about this with you.
Oh.
Truly.